Imagine writing a message, knowing it may never arrive. Imagine trusting your most important words to a stranger on horseback, traveling through forests filled with bandits, across mountains, seas, and hostile kingdoms. 1,000 years ago, every message carried risk. Every delay could change history. And yet, the world stayed connected, not by machines, but by human lives. The year is roughly 1025 A.D. across the world. Powerful civilizations rise and fall. Medieval Europe, the Islamic caliphates, the Song dynasty in China, the Byzantine Empire, and thriving trade networks stretching from Africa to Scandinavia. There is no electricity, no printing press as we know it, no global language. And yet, rulers govern empires spanning thousands of miles. Communication is slow, but it is deliberate. Information moves at the speed of humans, animals, wind, and water. Words are carved, handwritten, memorized, sung, whispered, and carried. To understand how communication worked 1,000 years ago, we must step into a world where every message mattered, because it was rare. In medieval Europe, the primary method of long-distance communication was the written letter, but literacy was rare. Most people could not read or write. Writing was a specialized skill, controlled by monks, scribes, and clerks trained for years. Letters were written on parchment, made from animal skin. Ink was mixed by hand. Each word required time, effort, and cost. Sending a letter was an investment. Messengers, often servants, soldiers, or hired couriers, carried these letters by foot or horseback. There were no guarantees. Messages were lost to weather, theft, war, illness, or betrayal. In some regions, kings established early courier systems. The Byzantine Empire maintained relay stations where riders could switch horses, dramatically increasing speed. Islamic caliphates developed one of the most advanced postal systems of the medieval world, called the Barid, which doubled as an intelligence network. But even the fastest systems could take weeks. For common people, communication was mostly oral. News traveled through marketplaces, taverns, churches, and town squares. Stories were repeated, altered, exaggerated. Rumors spread faster than official messages, and often carried more power. In villages, church bells were a form of mass communication. Different ringing patterns meant different things: a death, a fire, an invasion, a call to worship. Across Africa and parts of Asia, drum communication transmitted messages over long distances. Specific rhythms carried specific meanings, understood by trained listeners miles away. In Scandinavia, runestones carved messages into stone. Declarations of lineage, ownership, and memory meant to outlast generations. In China, communication reached remarkable sophistication. The Song dynasty expanded paper production, calligraphy, and bureaucratic record-keeping. Imperial edicts were copied and distributed through a vast administrative system. Carrier pigeons were used in parts of the Islamic world, China, and later Europe, trained to return home with messages tied to their legs. But communication wasn't only about sending messages. It was about control. Rulers controlled information flow to maintain power. Messages were sealed with wax to prevent tampering, though interception was common. Spies memorized messages to avoid written evidence. Diplomacy depended on interpreters, often working across multiple languages with no standardized translations. One misinterpreted phrase could collapse peace negotiations. Warfare relied heavily on communication, or the lack of it. Orders delayed meant battles lost. Armies used flags, horns, drums, and torches to signal movements. Even time itself was communicated differently. There were no synchronized clocks. Deadlines were vague. Before winter was a common time frame. Communication shaped human psychology. Patience was required. Silence was normal. Waiting was expected. These early communication systems shaped the modern world. They laid the foundations for postal services, intelligence agencies, bureaucracies, and diplomacy. They also shaped how societies thought. Decisions were slower, but often more deliberate. Leaders ruled knowing they were isolated from immediate feedback. The slowness of communication limited the speed of empire, but also limited chaos. When printing emerged centuries later, it didn't just accelerate communication, it shattered control over information. But for thousands of years before that, communication was intimate, fragile, and deeply human. Today, messages travel the world in milliseconds. We expect replies instantly. Silence feels uncomfortable, but 1,000 years ago, silence was normal. Waiting was part of life. Messages carried weight because they were rare. Every letter meant trust. Every messenger meant courage. Every word mattered. Understanding how communication worked 1,000 years ago reminds us that technology didn't invent connection, humans did. And perhaps, in a world of endless messages, we've forgotten the power of a single one.